Picture this: a crisp Saturday morning at the Green Valley Farmers Market, where the air hums with the scent of warm sourdough and ripe peaches. Kids chase iridescent bubbles, and vendors swap stories louder than the live bluegrass band. It's the kind of place that makes you feel like you've stepped into a Norman Rockwell painting. All community spirit and small town charm. Now imagine that postcard perfect scene obliterated by the roar of a V6 engine and the screech of tires as a shiny SUV barrels through the stalls, scattering tomatoes and dreams. That, my friends, is the day Karen decided her Chihuahua's feelings trumped everyone else's safety. Buckle up. This is the story of how one woman's entitlement met its match, and I, Tom, the market's volunteer coordinator, got to watch her crash and burn. Are you reading this on your phone, laptop, or maybe sneaking a peek on your work computer? Drop a comment and let me know. I'm Tom, a 50-year-old retired cop who traded handcuffs for a clipboard to keep this market running like a well-oiled tractor. Green Valley's market isn't just a place to grab overpriced kale. It's the heartbeat of our town, a weekly ritual where folks reconnect, barter, and occasionally argue over who gets the last jar of lavender honey. But there's one rule we don't bend: no dogs allowed. State health codes are stricter than my old sergeant, and pets in a food market are a recipe for E. coli and bad vibes. Most folks get it. Most folks aren't Karen. Let me set the stage. The market sprawls across the town square, a patchwork of white tents and colorful signs. The air's thick with the aroma of fresh basil, grilled corn, and that one guy selling artisanal coffee that costs more than my first car. Buskers strum guitars, their open cases collecting spare change and the occasional cherry tomato. Kids dart through the crowd sticky with popsicle juice, while retirees haggle over zucchini, like it's the stock market. It's chaotic, sure, but it's our chaos, and I love every second of it. As coordinator, I'm part greeter, part referee, and part rule enforcer. My job is to keep the peace, whether it's settling a dispute over a bruised apple or reminding folks that, no, your golden doodle isn't a service animal just because it wears a boatie. I've been at this for 5 years, ever since I hung up my badge. The market's my pride and joy, a place where Green Valley shows off its best. I know every vendor by name. There's Sarah, who grows heirloom tomatoes that could star in a Pixar movie, and Mike, whose sourdough is so good it's practically a controlled substance. I start my mornings here with a thermos of black coffee, strolling the aisles, helping set up tables, and making sure everyone's following the rules. It's not just about health codes, it's about fairness. This market's a level playing field, where everyone gets a shot to shine, from the organic carrot guy to the lady selling crocheted potholders. That's what makes it special, and that's what I protect. This particular Saturday started like any other. The sun was just peeking over the oak trees, casting long shadows across the square. I was helping Sarah unload crates of her tomatoes, joking about how she should charge extra for their emotional support value, when I caught a glint out of the corner of my eye at the market's entrance, where a big ol' "No dogs allowed" sign hangs like a commandment. A silver SUV idled with the subtlety of a marching band. Its driver, a woman with a blonde ponytail and sunglasses big enough to double as hubcaps, was glaring at the sign like it had personally insulted her. I've seen that look before. It's the look of someone who thinks rules are for other people. My cop instincts kicked in, the ones that used to tell me a routine traffic stop was about to go sideways. I handed Sarah her crate, dusted off my jeans, and started walking toward the SUV, my clipboard suddenly feeling like a shield. Now, I'm no stranger to entitled folks. In my 20 years on the force, I dealt with speeders who swore they were late for emergencies, read yoga class, and shoplifters who claimed the store owed them a free bottle of wine. But something about this woman's vibe screamed trouble, like a storm cloud rolling in on a picnic. Maybe it was the way she revved her engine, just enough to make the nearest vendor jump, or how she clutched a yappy chihuahua, like it was her emotional support grenade. Either way, I knew this wasn't going to be a quick chat. I squared my shoulders, put on my best "let's keep this civil" smile, and approached her window, ready to explain the dog rule for the 100th time that month. What I didn't know was that this wasn't just another cranky customer. This was Karen, and she was about to turn our peaceful market into her personal demolition derby. I've seen a lot in my years: bar fights, car chases, even a guy who tried to rob a bank with a zucchini. But nothing prepared me for the chaos she'd unleash. By the time this day was over, stalls would be smashed, produce would be airborne, and Karen would learn that Green Valley doesn't bow to tantrums. Stick around, because this is where the real fun begins. I'll admit, there's a part of me, a small, petty part, that loves watching entitled folks get their comeuppance. Call it the revenge fantasy of every cop, cashier, or waiter who's ever bitten their tongue while someone screams, "Do you know who I am?" In Green Valley, we don't care who you are. We care about community, about showing up for each other, about keeping this market a place where everyone plays by the same rules. Karen thought she could bulldoze that. She thought wrong. As I walked toward her SUV, the morning sun glinting off her windshield, I had no idea I was about to become the hero of a story that'd have the whole town cheering and the internet cackling. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just say this Karen's glare was the spark, and our market was about to catch fire. Karen wasn't just upset about the dog rule, she was ready to make it everyone's problem. As I approached her idling SUV, clipboard in hand, I could feel the Green Valley Farmers Market holding its breath. The bluegrass band faltered mid-chord, vendors paused their chatter, and even the kids chasing bubbles seemed to sense a storm brewing. Karen, perched in her driver's seat, like a queen on a throne, clutched her chihuahua, a yappy furball named Princess, judging by the rhinestone collar, and fixed me with a stare that could curdle milk. Her blonde ponytail was so tight it looked like it was pulling her eyebrows into a permanent scowl, and her yoga pants screamed, "I paid $200 for these, so bow down." I've faced down drunks with switchblades and teenagers with stolen fireworks, but something about Karen's vibe made my old cop instinct scream, "This one's trouble." "Morning, ma'am," I said, keeping my tone as smooth as Sarah's heirloom tomatoes. "I see you've got a dog there. We've got a strict no dogs policy per state health codes. Happy to help you tie her up outside. There's a shady spot by the entrance." I pointed to the "No dogs allowed" sign, which was as subtle as a billboard, complete with a cartoon dog and a red slash through it. Karen didn't even glance at it. Instead, she lowered her oversized sunglasses just enough to glare over the rims, like I was a peasant interrupting her royal brunch. "Excuse me," she snapped, her voice sharp enough to slice through the market's hum. "Princess is a service animal. You can't ban her. That's discrimination." Princess, clearly not trained for anything beyond barking at squirrels, yipped furiously, her tiny body vibrating like a wound-up toy. I've dealt with service animal claims before. Legit ones come with calm dogs and paperwork, not attitude and a bedazzled leash. My 20 years on the force taught me to spot a bluff, and Karen was playing poker with a 2 of clubs. "Ma'am, I'd be happy to see your documentation," I said, still polite but firm, like I was talking a speeder out of a bad excuse. "State law requires it for service animals in food markets." "No papers, no entry." I kept my stance relaxed, clipboard at my side, but my eyes locked on hers. The market was watching now. Sarah had stopped unloading tomatoes, Mike the sourdough guy was craning his neck, and a couple of retirees with reusable tote bags were whispering like they'd just spotted a celebrity. Karen's face went redder than the peppers on Sarah's stall. "Documentation," she sputtered. "Do you know who I am?"
"I don't need to show you anything."
"Princess needs to be with me. She has anxiety." Princess chose that moment to lunge at a passing butterfly, nearly tumbling out of Karen's arms. The crowd murmured, a mix of amusement and annoyance. I could have let it slide, maybe escorted her out with a warning, But Karen wasn't done. She leaned out her window, jabbing a manicured finger at me. "This is harassment. I'm going to sue this podunk market for every penny it's got." Now, I'm no stranger to threats. I once had a guy swear he'd curse me with voodoo after I ticketed his double-parked Camaro. But Karen's tantrum was drawing a crowd, and the market's vibe was shifting from cozy to chaotic. Princess's barking had hit a pitch that could shatter glass, and shoppers were starting to edge away, clutching their zucchini like shields. I took a deep breath, channeling every ounce of my old sergeant's patience. "Mom, I'm just enforcing the rules. No dogs in the market, service animal or not, without papers. Let's keep this civil. Tie Princess up, and you're welcome to shop, civil." Karen shrieked, loud enough to make the busker's guitar twang in sympathy. "You're the one being uncivil, picking on a woman and her emotional support animal. You're probably one of those dog haters I read about on X." She fumbled for her phone, nearly dropping Princess, and started filming me, her sunglasses now perched on her head like a crown. "Smile, jerk. You're going viral for discrimination!" The crowd gasped, some pulling out their own phones, turning our little standoff into a social media circus. I kept my face neutral, the way I used to when testifying in court, but inside I was itching to radio for backup. Too bad my clipboard didn't come with a siren. "Mom, put the phone down and step out of the vehicle," I said, my voice dropping to the tone that once made a shoplifter confess on the spot. "You're causing a disturbance." But Karen was past reasoning. She tossed her phone onto the passenger seat, still recording, and revved her engine, the SUV lurching forward an inch. The crowd scattered, a vendor's crate of apples tipping over with a thud. "You've ruined my day," she yelled, Princess yipping in agreement. "This market's a joke, and you're the biggest clown here." I planted myself in front of her SUV, clipboard raised like a traffic cop's hand. "Mom, you need to leave now." My heart was pounding, but I'd faced worse, like the time I chased a carjacker through a cornfield. Karen, though, wasn't backing down. Her eyes narrowed, and for a split second, I saw something uglier than entitlement. Pure, reckless spite. She slammed her door shut, revved the engine again, and I knew this wasn't ending with a polite exit. The market's cheerful hum was gone, replaced by the growl of her SUV and the crowd's nervous murmurs. Sarah shot me a worried look, and Mike muttered something about calling the cops. Karen's tantrum was just the beginning. She was about to take things to a whole new level. I've seen entitled folks throw punches, spit, even fling a lad at a barista, but Karen was gearing up for something bigger. As she gripped her steering wheel, her knuckles white, I realized this wasn't just about a dog or a rule. This was about her need to win, to make the world bend to her will. And Tom, the guy who just wanted a peaceful Saturday, was standing in her way. The market's future, my reputation, and a whole lot of produce were on the line. I tightened my grip on my clipboard, ready for whatever came next, because in Green Valley, we don't let Karens run the show. I've seen entitled customers throw fits that make a toddler blush, but Karen driving her SUV through the Green Valley Farmers Market was pure, unfiltered chaos. Her tantrum had already turned our cozy Saturday into a reality TV showdown, with Princess the Chihuahua as her yapping co-star. Now, as I stood in front of her revving SUV, clipboard raised like a flimsy shield, I realized Karen wasn't just barking. She was about to bite. The market's cheerful hum was drowned out by her engine's growl, and the crowd's murmurs had turned to gasps. Sarah, the tomato vendor, clutched her crate like a life raft, and Mike the Sordo guy was already dialing 911. Karen's eyes glinted with spite, and before I could say health code, one more time she slammed her foot on the gas. The SUV lurched forward, tires screeching like a banshee, and barreled straight into the pedestrian-only zone. Stalls exploded into splinters, tomatoes and zucchini flying like confetti at a deranged parade. Shoppers screamed, diving behind tables or scrambling for the sidelines. A crate of peaches hit the ground, splattering juice across my boots while a busker's guitar case skidded into a pile of artisanal cheeses. Princess, perched on the passenger seat, barked like she was cheering her owner on, her rhinestone collar glinting in the chaos. Karen's SUV swerved, knocking over a table of fresh basil, the air now thick with the scent of crushed herbs and panic. I've chased speeders down highways, but watching a yoga pants warrior treat our market like a demolition derby was a new kind of nightmare. "Everybody back," I shouted, my old cop training kicking in like muscle memory. I waved vendors toward the edges, my heart pounding as I scanned for injuries. Sarah, trying to drag her tomato crates to safety, twisted her ankle and hit the ground with a yelp. "Stay down," I called, sprinting toward her while keeping one eye on Karen's SUV. The vehicle slowed for a split second, and Karen leaned out her window, her ponytail swinging like a battle flag.
You deserve this,
she screeched, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Banning my dog. You ruined my day, so I'm ruining yours." She fumbled for her phone, still filming as if this was her Oscar-worthy moment. "Smile, losers, you're all going viral. Viral. Lady, you're going to jail." I pulled out my own phone, hitting 911 while barking orders to the crowd. "This is Tom at the Green Valley Farmers Market," I told the dispatcher, my voice steady despite the adrenaline. "We've got a reckless driver endangering lives. Silver SUV female driver, license plate starts with K. She's smashing stalls and refusing to stop." The dispatcher promised units in 5 minutes, but 5 minutes in this chaos was an eternity. I shoved my phone back in my pocket and grabbed a nearby vendor, Mike, who was gaping like he'd seen a UFO. "Help Sarah to the side. She's hurt. Keep everyone clear." Karen's SUV lurched again, clipping a table of homemade jams. Glass jars shattered, raspberry preserves splattering like a crime scene. Shoppers were filming now, their phones turning the market into a live-streamed disaster zone. I caught a glimpse of a kid, maybe 10, frozen in the path of the SUV, his popsicle dripping onto the pavement. "Mauve," I roared, sprinting to scoop him up and shove him behind a stack of crates. The boy's mom grabbed him, sobbing. As Karen's tires squealed past, missing us by inches, my blood boiled. This wasn't just entitlement, this was endangerment, plain and simple, and I wasn't letting her hurt anyone else. I spotted a heavy wooden crate, Mike's Sordo display built like a tank. "Help me!" I yelled to a nearby vendor, a burly guy who sold organic carrots. Together, we dragged the crate into the SUV's path, blocking the main aisle. Karen slammed on her brakes, her bumper kissing the crate with a thud. She leapt out, Princess tucked under her arm, and stormed toward me, her sunglasses bouncing on her head.
"You can't do this!"
she screamed, jabbing her phone in my face.
"This is harassment."
"I'm the victim here. You banned my emotional support animal," Princess yipped, as if to punctuate her owner's meltdown, while the crowd booed like they were at a wrestling match. "Victim," I shot back, my voice loud enough to carry over the chaos. "You're driving through a crowded market, lady. You're lucky no one's dead." The crowd roared agreement, some shouting, "Get her out of here." Karen flinched, her smirk faltering, but she doubled down, waving her phone like a weapon.
"I'm posting this on X. You'll all be canceled."
Cancelled. I'd faced gangbangers with better threats. I stepped closer, my clipboard now feeling like a gavel. "Step away from the vehicle, ma'am. Police are on their way." The air was thick with tension, broken only by the distant wail of sirens. Karen froze, her eyes darting to her SUV, then back to me. For a second, I thought she'd bolt, but the crowd had closed in, their phones still rolling, trapping her in a ring of amateur paparazzi. Sarah, limping but upright, hobbled over with Mike's help, her face a mix of pain and fury. "You wrecked my stall," she shouted, pointing at the ruins of her tomatoes. "Those were my livelihood." The crowd murmured support, and I felt a surge of pride. This was Green Valley. Mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. Karen's defiance cracked, her shoulders slumping as the sirens grew louder. She clutched Princess tighter. muttering about lawsuits and injustice. But the fight was draining out of her. I kept my stance firm, blocking her path to the SUV, my eyes never leaving hers. The crate still held, a makeshift barricade against her madness. The market was a war zone. Smashed stalls, scattered produce, and a twisted ankle. But we'd stopped her. For now. Karen thought she'd made her point, but she was about to face real consequences. I could hear the police radios crackling in the distance, and a grim satisfaction settled over me. This wasn't just about a dog or a rule anymore. It was about protecting our community from someone who thought she was above it all. As the first cop car pulled into the square, I allowed myself a small, petty smile. Karen's reign of terror was over, and I was ready to see justice roll in like a summer storm. Karen's smirk faded faster than her SUV's gas gauge when the police rolled into the Green Valley Farmers Market, their sirens cutting through the chaos like a hot knife through Mike's sourdough. I stood by the crate blocking her vehicle, my clipboard still in hand, watching her clutch Princess the Chihuahua as if the yappy furball could lawyer her out of this mess. The market was a battlefield. Smashed stalls, splattered peaches, and Sarah nursing her twisted ankle. But the crowd's boos had turned to cheers as two cop cars pulled up. The lead officer, a lanky guy named Daniels, stepped out, and I grinned. "Well, if it ain't my old poker buddy," I said, shaking his hand. Daniels smirked back, eyeing the wreckage. "Tom, only you could turn a farmer's market into a crime scene." Karen, still waving her phone like it was a get-out-of-jail-free card, didn't know she'd just lost the game. Daniels and his partner, Officer Lopez, surveyed the carnage. Shattered jam jars, a toppled basil table, and a crowd of shoppers filming like they were at a rock concert. I filled Daniels in, my voice calm but firm, the way I used to give reports back in my cop days. Female driver, early 40s, drove her SUV through the pedestrian zone after I enforced the no dogs rule. Ignored health codes, claimed her Chihuahua's a service animal. No papers, endangered lives, damaged property, and caused that injury. I nodded toward Sarah, who was leaning on Mike, her ankle swollen but her glare sharp enough to cut glass. Daniels raised an eyebrow, glancing at Karen, who was now yelling at Lopez. "You can't arrest me." They banned my emotional support animal. Princess yipped, adding to her one-woman circus. Lopez, unfazed, asked for her license, but Karen just thrust her phone at him, insisting her ex-followers would cancel the police. The crowd laughed, a few shouting, "Put it online, Karen." I stifled a chuckle. This was better than the time I caught a shoplifter trying to hide a ham in his pants. I handed Daniels my own phone, showing the 911 call log, and pointing out the market's security camera, a little dome above the entrance that had caught every second of Karen's rampage. "Check the footage," I said. "It'll show her driving in, ignoring the signs, and plowing through stalls. Bystander videos too. Half this crowd's got her on TikTok by now." Daniels nodded, sending Lopez to collect phones from willing shoppers. The evidence was piling up faster than Sarah's heirloom tomatoes before the crash. Stepping toward Karen, I laid out the charges like I was reading a menu. "Mom, you're looking at reckless driving, vehicle code 231-3, endangering lives and property, vandalism, penal code 594 for the stalls and goods you destroyed, disorderly conduct, penal code 6R47 for causing a public disturbance. And that's before we talk about the fire hazard." I gestured to a nearby vendor's propane stove, now tipped over but mercifully unlit. "You're lucky we're not adding attempted arson." Karen's jaw dropped, her sunglasses slipping down her nose. "Fire hazard," she sputtered. "You provoked me! This is your fault!" "Provoked?" Sarah snapped, hobbling forward with Mike's help. "You wrecked my livelihood because you couldn't leave your dog at home." The crowd roared, clapping for Sarah like she'd just dropped a mic. Karen shrank back, clutching Princess, but Daniels wasn't having it. "Mom, turn off the phone and step away from the vehicle," he said, his tone all business. Lopez, holding a stack of bystander phones, added, We've got enough footage to make you a YouTube star. Let's not add resisting arrest." Karen's defiance crumbled as Daniels cuffed her, reading her rights while Princess barked in protest. "You can't take my baby," she wailed as Lopez gently pried the chihuahua from her arms, handing it to a vendor who promised to hold it for animal control. "A relative can pick her up," Lopez said, but Karen was too busy screeching about police brutality to listen. The crowd cheered louder, some chanting, "Tom, Tom." I waved them off, but I'll admit it felt good. 20 years on the force, and I'd never had a crowd root for me like this. As the cops led Karen to the patrol car, the market started to pull itself together. Mike and the carrot guy righted a table, while shoppers helped sweep up shattered glass and squash produce. Sarah, now seated with an ice pack from a nearby vendor, gave me a nod. "You stopped her, Tom. We owe you." I shrugged, clipping my board to my belt. Just doing my job. But inside, I was grinning like a kid who'd won the county fair. Karen thought she could bully our market, but she'd underestimated Green Valley's spine, and mine. Daniels came back, holding a tablet with the security footage. "Clear as day," he said. "She drove in, ignored your warnings, and hit the stalls. We've got her on reckless driving and vandalism minimum. DA might push for more, given the injury and endangerment." I nodded, pointing out the health code signs for good measure. Monterey Bay farmers' rules, backed by state law. She knew the deal and chose chaos. Daniels clapped my shoulder. "You ever miss the badge, Tom? You're still sharper than half my rookies." I laughed. "Nah, I like my clipboard life, less paperwork." As Karen's SUV was towed, the crowd dispersed, some still filming, others helping vendors salvage what they could. A kid handed me a half-smashed peach, saying,
"You're a hero, mister!"
I took a bite, the juice dripping down my chin, and ruffled his hair. "Just keeping the market safe, kid." But I knew this wasn't over. Karen's stunt had lit a fire, and the internet was about to fan the flames. Her troubles were far from done. The community and courts had more in store, and I was ready to see her face the music. The market spirit was bruised but unbroken. Vendors shared coffee and stories, already joking about Karen's demolition derby. I looked at the wreckage, filers, $1,000 and damages easy, and felt a surge of resolve. This was our place, our people, and no entitled wannabe influencer was going to tear it down. As I helped Sarah pack up her remaining tomatoes, I caught a glimpse of Princess, now quiet in a vendor's arms, waiting for a saner guardian. Karen thought she'd won with her SUV stunt, but she'd just driven herself into a corner, and I, Tom, was happy to lock the gate behind her. Karen's stunt didn't just wreck stalls, it sparked a movement. As the police hauled her away in cuffs, the Green Valley Farmers Market stood battered but defiant, a testament to our town's grit. The air still smelled of crushed basil and spilled jam, but the crowd's cheers echoed louder than Princess's yaps. I leaned against a salvage table, my clipboard finally at rest, watching vendors and shoppers rally like soldiers after a siege. Sarah, icing her twisted ankle, gave me a thumbs up while Mike, the sourdough guy, passed out free loaves to volunteers sweeping up debris. Karen thought she'd broken us, but she'd only lit a fuse. Green Valley was about to show her what community really means, and the internet was ready to pile on. By noon, the market was trending on X with hashtags like Firemarketkaran and Fikaran crashes. Bystander videos, shaky clips of Karen's SUV plowing through stalls, her screeching about discrimination, and Princess barking like a possessed squeaky toy, racked up millions of views. One post, captioned entitled Karen vs. Farmers Market Guess Who Loses, got 50,000 reposts by sundown. Local news vans rolled in, their cameras catching me helping Sarah stack her remaining tomatoes. "Tom, you're the hero of Green Valley," a reporter shouted, shoving a mic in my face. I waved her off, muttering, "Just doing my job," but the crowd chanted my name again, and I'll admit, it felt like winning a medal without the paperwork. The story didn't just go viral. It became a cultural moment. Reddit threads on R's Fuck You Karen and R Dogfree dissected every frame of Karen's meltdown, with users cackling over her service animal claim and Princess's rhinestone collar. "This is peak Karen," one commenter wrote, "destroying a market because her dog can't handle a timeout." Another posted a meme of Karen's SUV photoshopped into a monster truck rally captioned, "When you take emotional support too far." Ex-users dug up Karen's profile. She was a boutique sales manager named Karen Mitchell, 42, with a feed full of yoga selfies and rants about rude service workers. Her latest post, a whiny defense of her market stunt, backfired spectacularly, earning 10,000 quote posts roasting her into oblivion. Green Valley didn't just laugh, we fought back. By Monday, a crowdfunding page raised $6,000 to repair damaged stalls, with donations pouring in from as far as Boise and Pleasanton. Volunteers, including the kid who'd given me that smashed peach, showed up with brooms and paint cans to rebuild. Sarah, still limping, got a standing ovation when she reopened her tomato stall the next weekend, her heirloom beauties now dubbed Karen Proof. The market launched a Respect the Rules campaign, with new signs and a pamphlet explaining health codes in terms even a Chihuahua could understand. I handed them out, clipboard in hand, feeling like the sheriff of a town that refused to break. Karen's fallout was as swift as her SUV. Her boutique, a trendy shop called Bliss and Bloom, fired her after customers flooded their X page with screenshots of her rampage. "We do not condone Ms. Mitchell's actions," their statement read, and by Wednesday, Karen's name was scrubbed from their website. Her social media accounts went private, but not before users archived her rants, turning her into a cautionary tale. One ex-post summed it up: "Karen thought she'd go viral for standing up. Now she's viral for sitting in cuffs." Even Princess got a temporary home. Animal control released her to Karen's cousin, who promised to keep the Chihuahua far from markets and mayhem. The legal hammer dropped hard. Karen faced charges for reckless driving, vehicle code 2313, vandalism called 594, and disorderly conduct penal code 647. Damages were pegged at $5,000. Smashed stalls ruined produce and Sarah's medical bills. The DA, citing bystander videos and the market's security footage, pushed for maximum penalties, fines up to $1,000 per charge and possible jail time. Karen's lawyer tried spinning her as a stressed mom provoked by unfair rules, but the judge wasn't buying it, especially after seeing footage of her yelling, "You deserved this." I got a call from Daniels, my cop buddy, who chuckled, her attorneys sweating more than she was in that SUV. The market's resilience became its own story. Local papers, like the Pleasanton Weekly, ran headlines like, "Green Valley Market Bounces Back After Karen Chaos." They quoted me saying, "We're not just a market, we're a family. Karen messed with the wrong town." Ex-users amplified it, with Fag Green Valley Strong trending alongside 5 Market Karen. A boys' farmers market inspired by our fight shared their own "No Dogs" signs crediting us for standing firm. Even the national news picked it up with a segment on community spirit vs. entitlement, featuring Sarah's tomatoes and my clipboard as props. I laughed when they called me the market's guardian. But I wasn't arguing. Karen's court date loomed, and justice was ready to strike. I pictured her in a courtroom, her ponytail less perky, facing a judge who'd seen the viral videos. Would she cry? Discrimination again? Blame Princess's anxiety? Whatever her excuse, Green Valley had already won. We'd rebuilt stronger, laughed louder, and turned her tantrum into a rallying cry. The market's next Saturday saw record crowds, with shoppers wearing "Respect the Rules" t-shirts and kids drawing chalk art of me blocking Karen's SUV. Sarah slipped me a free tomato, whispering, "For the hero." I took a bite, juice dripping, and felt the weight of our victory. Karen's stunt had backfired in every way. She'd wanted to be a victim, a viral martyr, but instead, she'd become a punchline, a warning etched in internet stone. Don't mess with a town that loves its market more than you love your ego. As I walked the aisles, helping Mike stack his sourdough and joking with the carrot guy, I saw Green Valley's heart in every smile, every sale. We'd taken her chaos and turned it into strength, proving that no Karen, no matter how loud or reckless, could break us. And somewhere, in a quiet corner of town, Princess was probably yapping at a butterfly, blissfully unaware of the storm her owner had unleashed, and the community that had shut it down. Karen learned the hard way: entitlement doesn't beat the law. 2 months after her SUV tore through the Green Valley Farmers Market, she stood in a courtroom, her ponytail sagging like a defeated flag, facing a judge who'd probably watched the 5 Market Karen videos on repeat. I sat in the back, clipboard traded for a notepad, savoring the moment like a bite of Sarah's ripest tomato. The market had risen from her wreckage stronger than ever, but Karen was about to harvest the consequences of her chaos. Her stunt had ignited a movement, and now, under the courtroom's harsh lights, Green Valley was ready to see justice seal her fate. The judge, a stern woman with glasses that could cut through Karen's yoga pants, didn't flinch as Karen's lawyer spun a sob story about emotional distress and provocative rules. Karen, dressed in a beige blazer that screamed, "I'm a changed woman," dabbed her eyes, claiming the market's discriminatory no dogs policy drove her to madness. She called Princess her absent chihuahua an essential emotional support animal. The gallery, vendors, shoppers, and me bit back chuckles. The judge wasn't amused. "Ms. Mitchell," she said, her voice like a gavel's echo, "you endangered lives and destroyed property over a rule you willfully ignored. That's not distress, it's recklessness." Karen pleaded guilty to reckless driving and vandalism. The disorderly conduct charge dropped in a plea deal. The penalties landed like a crate of Mike's sourdough: a 2,000 zalzen fine, 5 zalzen in restitution for the market's damages, and 100 hours of community service at a dog shelter, a twist so perfect it felt scripted. The judge capped it with a lifetime ban from the market, declaring, "You've forfeited your place in this community." Karen's face collapsed, her sunglasses slipping down her nose, but the courtroom hummed with approval. Sarah, beside me, whispered, "She'll be scooping poop while we sell peaches. Justice tastes sweet." I jotted it in my notepad, grinning. This was Green Valley's win, and it felt better than my old cop badge ever did. The market, meanwhile, was thriving like never before. We reopened the weekend after Karen's rampage, fortified with steel barriers donated by a local welder who'd laughed at the memes. Crowds surged, drawn by our story and the Respect the Rules campaign. Shoppers snapped selfies with our new health code signs, now bold as billboards, while kids wore t-shirts with my silhouette blocking Karen's SUV. Mike's sourdough vanished in hours, Sarah's tomatoes earned a cult following, and the carrot guy landed a feature in the Pleasanton Weekly. We weren't just a market anymore. We were a symbol, proof that a town could turn a tantrum into triumph. I got a community service award at the next town hall, a polished plaque now hanging above my desk. The mayor dubbed me Green Valley's guardian, and the crowd gave a standing ovation that made my ears burn. Tom kept us safe. Sarah told the room, her ankle healed and her stall busier than ever. I shrugged it off, saying, "Just doing what's right." But inside, I was prouder than the day I made my first arrest. This wasn't about me. It was about us, a community that refused to let one Karen's chaos uproot our roots. Every repaired stall, every sold loaf, every chalk drawing of that fateful day was a middle finger to her entitlement. The moral hit harder than Karen's SUV. Respect for rules and collective action outshine selfish tantrums. Green Valley's market wasn't just a place to buy overpriced kale. It was a pact, a promise to play fair and lift each other up. Karen thought she could bully her way through, but she crashed into a wall of small-town spine. Her fines and kennel duty were more than punishment. They were a reminder that communities thrive on trust, not tirades. It's the kind of lesson that sticks, the kind that makes you nod and think, "Yeah, that's how it should be." Fairness, unity, and a good tomato. Those are the things worth fighting for. If you love this story, like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell. Spread the word about Green Valley, where we turned a wrecking ball into a rallying cry. Post your thoughts on X with Green Valley Strong. Tell us about the Karins you've faced or the communities you've seen rise. This tale's for anyone who's ever stood their ground, from market vendors to coffee shop clerks. Let's keep the conversation going, because every rule respected, every stall rebuilt, is a win for us all. As I walked the market's aisles the next Saturday, the sun glinting off those new barriers, I saw our victory in every detail. Mike handed me a free loaf, still warm, and said, "For the guy who stopped a tornado." Sarah slipped a tomato into my bag, winking. Karen, Proof, and Tom approved. The carrot guy played his guitar, a new song about the day the market fought back. Shoppers laughed, kids chased bubbles, and the air smelled of basil and hope. The wreckage was gone, replaced by a stronger, prouder market that Karen could never touch. In a community built on trust, one Karen's chaos only made us stronger. I leaned against a stall, biting into that tomato, juice dripping down my chin, and felt the weight of our story settle. Karen was out there scrubbing kennels and dodging X memes, while we were here thriving. Her SUV might have shaken us, but it couldn't break us. Green Valley had spoken, and the world had listened. As I waved to a kid drawing my crate, blocking moment in chalk, I knew this wasn't just a market, it was a legacy, one we'd defend with every rule, every sale, and every damn tomato we had.